All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us for another conversation on Tribe Talk Tuesdays. This is episode 2 of season 4. I am Cookie, also known as Kiera, the owner of Divinely Her Healing, Elevating, and Renewing.
Yes, y'all, and I am Nurse Britt, the founder of Empower Women Fitness and Wellness Center, Empower Women all over the world.
And we have our special guest here,
Yes.
Miss Keke. If you could go ahead and introduce yourself to the people and let them know who you are and what it is that you do.
Awesome. Yes. So my name is Keke. I am the owner of 387 Grooming, which is a skincare and grooming business for men located in Germantown.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And I am a licensed esthetician, almost 10 years.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yes. So it is
Y'all
a pleasure.
see her skin flawless.
I try. I try.
It is a pleasure having you here with us today.
Thank you.
So the first question that we like to lead off with for every guest that we have is, what does healing look like for you in your own definition?
For me personally.
Yes.
So I would say healing for me within the last almost 3 years has been therapy, being in therapy, consistently in therapy. Um, I was going every 2 weeks. No, excuse me. I'm going every 2 weeks now in the new year, as of the new year. Prior to that, the last 2 years, it has been every week. Okay. Every Tuesday at 10:45, I see my girl, Christy. Okay. That has been top tier in my life, and I've noticed it's made a big change in how I present myself in the world, how I show up at work, for my clients, for my family, for myself. It's just been a real game changer, ultimately, for me.
That's dope. Yeah. That's really dope. Okay, I'm gonna have to get your details.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like I tell people, every chance someone will listen about therapy and what it does, I'm enforcing it. And though I'm Christian, I know some Christians believe that, like, oh no, you should just believe in God or whatever it might be that you believe in, that's who you should pray to, and only believe that they will get you through your tough times. I've done that too, but I also felt like I needed somebody to actually physically talk to and get the response back, like in that moment, kind of a thing. And I obviously still do lead in my, lean into my religion also, but they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And I was going to say that it definitely goes hand in hand. Like, yeah. I think if we look back, or like whatever you believe in, or whatever text that you follow, even in the text or in the scripture and history, that like people were sent, you know what I mean? Like even say, like that you could talk to them will give wisdom. Yeah. So I think that wisdom, God has put universe, whatever you decide to follow, call that God. Seriously, because that's true. Sure. That wisdom was also placed on here because, like, I do believe, like, the creator knows that we also need that physical, just like how, like, Adam was here, but he created, his mate. So it's just like wisdom is here within people for also. Sure. So I'm definitely like, yes, firm believer. Like, I tell people that all the time. It's like, number one, you gotta have that balance. So it's like, yes, you do have, your spirituality and your relationship with the creator, but you also like you also have to like do the work, and also you gotta have people to help you along the journey. Yeah, like, that makes sense.
No, for sure. And I don't think that, just like with a mechanic that fixes cars, like a car was created for transportation, right? But then who's gonna fix the car? That person was created and given the knowledge and school or education or just craftsmanship to fix a car. I feel like therapists are the same thing.
No, I definitely agree. And I feel like also within our community, it's such a taboo, especially against our people. Like, you're not supposed to do that. That's only for white people, right?
Yeah, no.
And I feel like it doesn't, especially with us, because you'll find that a lot of our people in our community have the most trauma. And they, like, a lot of homes where you coming from, you're taught that what happens here stays here. More so, you really don't speak on it. It's that
it gets swept under the rug, and then it's literally lifelong trauma, generation after generation after generation. When if we just took care of it in the beginning, maybe, and didn't try to keep covering it up, it wouldn't be a whole lifelong thing.
Yeah.
So no, it is.
Yeah, most definitely, because it'll create other problems going forward. Because once you hold on to things like that, the whole communication factor falls into place with that and everything. And so being able to trust people as well too with your own personal business as well too is something that plays a part into that. But how would you say that your own healing journey has led you to what the work that you do today?
So prior to getting into therapy, I was already an esthetician, and I felt like becoming an esthetician also, I wanted to help people. So it was like I want to help people with their skin, allowing them to feel good about themselves. So initially, it started out with makeup. I was doing makeup and I was doing lashes. I went to beauty school in Miami, and so I felt like it was to help women feel pretty, feel good about themselves. And then eventually after a few years, I no longer wanted female clientele. I really didn't want the Miami women female clientele. Okay, that was really what that was. Okay, I just didn't want them, and that's what also made me want to come back home. Um, so what I learned though, that throughout the years, my perspective of life, of mental health, of wellness and self-care, it changed. And I think those with dealing with any mental health issues that I was going through, depression, insecurities, abandonment issues, that I was able to heal through those things, which allowed me to just be more present and aware of things within my clients. So I found that I also am able to speak to people differently and in a way where it almost is like a bridge before they go to therapy, or they actually say, if I'm able to talk to my esthetician about these traumatic things and nobody else in my family knows, I probably can go talk to a therapist. And it's become that. And so I do feel like, I was used as kind of like a vessel in a way to coach somebody else into taking care of themselves in that way also. Yeah, just comes with growth.
Yeah,
a lot of growth.
That's dope. I really think that's dope. And so even with, you said you started, well, of course you've always been an esthetician. How many years do you have in that field of work?
I think I'm going into like 9 years.
Okay.
9 years now. Initially, when I moved to Miami, it was to pursue a career as in the beauty industry and to go to beauty school there. I felt like I was going to get a better experience or a different experience than if I stayed here and went to beauty school. So I went out there. I loved it. I was there for 10 years. And after 10 years, I started to feel like things were shifting in politics and life. I was in my 30s at that point, and I was like, this lifestyle is not really what I want to be a part of. And I think I really want to go back home. It was a pretty cliche, and I started to feel like I needed community, a sense of community, and I didn't have that in Miami. Also, there weren't many women of color. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, right?
No. Not us.
Okay.
We're not out there. I had like, literally, like my clientele were all Hispanic and white women. And my friends here would often joke and say, "Do you have any black clients? Like, do you have?" And I'm like, "Barely, I know, right?" And my social media page like showed it. It was really, it was shocking to some people. But after a few years of being there, I started to just learn more about myself. I had a lot of anxiety, but living close to the beach definitely helped to kind of soothe that. I needed that. And so I knew being by the ocean would help me. But throughout the journey of beauty school, initially cosmetology, but I learned that it was all about hair. And I was like, I don't really want to do hair. I really want to focus on skin. So I completed the 1,200 hours, which was like a year for cosmetology. And then I decided to go back to do esthetician and just focus on that. And that initially was supposed to be 600 hours, which is like 6 months. And I did it in 3. I went like morning and nighttime. Because I had a job kind of lined up, and I knew that I was going to do great at this job, but I wanted to make sure no one else could take the job. So, but it was for me anyway. So it was fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. I really, really love that. So even with now, because you said your company is geared towards men.
Yes.
And I actually love even hearing that, right? One, because I feel like men probably don't think about their skin like that
at all.
And then two, I feel like in a way it's them being catered to, but they don't find the time. Not a lot of men take the time out to cater to themselves in that way. So if you could just go a little bit more in detail about that, your business with 387
So right before, well, how I came up with the concept and the idea of it being for men, I was actually with a client in Miami. I was doing her lashes, and typically they would fall asleep. So that was my time to listen to like a podcast or something. And I was listening to The Breakfast Club, and Charlemagne is big on like mental health. And he was interviewing Black Men Heal from Philly. Yeah. So that was the first time I had heard about them, and I was so intrigued. Like everything that they said, it was just like speaking to me. And then it started to make me think about men in my family, my nephews who were here, my brother, my dad, and I kept thinking like, well, actually, something, or I said God, or someone said said to me in my head, you don't always have, like, you don't have to only service women. And I was like, I don't have to only service women. And so I was like, how about I create a space for men and teach men about skincare and wellness? And I was already kind of feeling like female clientele was a little, the beauty industry is very saturated for female services. And I just felt like, where do men go to learn about their own skin or wellness and mental health? And how do you tie those together and create a space for them outside of the barbershop? And I was like, nobody's really doing this. Or I thought like nobody's really doing it. Let me look into it. And I went home that day and I got like a journal. I started jotting down things. I just started looking up places. And I think I might have come across some places in Atlanta. This was like 2019. Some places in Atlanta, or it was more like a barbershop vibe. And I was like, I don't want it to be like a barbershop vibe. I want it to be just like skincare, wellness. And then I put the ideas together. Well, the pandemic happened, and I put the ideas together and gave birth to it once I came back. Yeah. So it's probably like a year. But the services are all geared towards men learning about self-care, learning about their skin, encouraging them to use the proper products. So we do have products, a skincare line, and as well as a beard line. So we have products and tools for them to use. While in beauty school, I worked at Sephora, and I was one of their trainers. And so I would see how we would have a gondola, like a shelf for products for men, and it would get smaller and smaller and smaller until the point we didn't even have a gondola for their products anymore, which meant it wasn't selling enough in the store. They want to take it out. It's not profitable. And then when men would come and they would ask, we would have to just kind of think about a product that packaging wise would be fitting for a man, or it would also work for a man's skin. And it always made me think about how society kind of wants so much from men, but then doesn't pour into them. And then that's when it all kind of just, it kind of came to me like, this is what I need to be doing. And then that was, that's how it started. That's how it started. That's how it started.
That was amazing, because it's funny that you say, because I think about it all the time, like, yo, men do not, and it's crazy, because when you come in contact or when you have conversations with men, or like when you just have relationships, and I'm talking about like friendships with men, and you just hear them talk, and you're just like, well, we're like, we hear all the time like, oh, self-love and self-care all the time, but it's like, well, when do you have time for that? You know what I mean? And like, I don't. Well, I don't know. So I've never been in a barbershop before. Like, seriously, I've never been. Like, I remember I had to take my nephew one time. I was like, call me when you're done. He went to number 3, and that's it. I'm out. Like, I've never been in a barbershop, so I can't even say like it's that their space. You know what I'm saying? But I really don't think it is. You know what I mean? There's space to kind of like, really feel valued and appreciated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no.
And like, I don't think the barbershop is that space.
No.
So and seriously, I don't. So
it's
but
not.
when
there's no appreciation there.
Like, I don't know. But when I came across and when I met you, I was like, I love this. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just like, this is something that our men need. And like you said, like, we demand so much, like, as society, as women, we demand so much from our men, where it's just like, them just spending that, I don't know how long it takes, whether it be an hour, half an hour, seriously, you know what I mean, just to get a facial, just to sit there, for them to be able to digress, for them to be able to shut down and just hear their thoughts, you know what I mean, and like I said, just feel like valued and loved in that moment. It's so amazing. And like I said, I don't see anybody doing, and that was the thing too, where it's like, I'm like, I don't see anybody doing this. You know what I'm saying? So I was super grateful for you. I'm like, I can't wait to send my husband to you. I'm like, go get a facial, so. But or go get whatever you want to go get. Like, you know what I mean? Seriously, because I think that I think will just as much as like we feel as though when we do something, get our nails done and hair done, I think that will build up the morale for the men. You know what I mean? That sometimes that a lot of times that we don't even like see, you know what I mean? Like, because they're just so, this just so taught to have this armor and face on, where it's just like, that little bit of time that they spend with you could just like put so much morale back into the, you know what I mean? Into our black colored man, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, seriously.
For sure.
So like, I really appreciate what you do. And like, hopefully we have to just, that's why I'm like trying to figure out ways, like, how can we draw so much more attention, because it's just needed. You know what I mean? I think as women, we have things like certain things down pat. Where like our men are just still trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, and even with me, like the only person that I genuinely know that spends like that, like self-care time is Lil. Like, he's the only, seriously, like seriously, as a man, like he's the only one. I'm like he's going to go eat by himself. He's going to, you know what I mean? Like, he's going to go get a facial. He's going to self-love on himself. And that's something that I really value and love about him as a black man, because once again, like we don't see that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we really have to like kind of like force our men to kind of, you know what I mean? Like, just sit down, just take, you know what I mean? Like, take a day off. And that is, I think, even hard for them. So
no, it truly is. And I see that in conversation with them also. That's always the case. It's, they either come in and chatting with me and then they fall asleep. And I don't mind. I'm like, go ahead, sleep. And I know sometimes, like, one of my friends, well, his baby is like a year now, but when the baby was first born and he had came to get a facial, we were talking and I could just tell he was starting to like, oh, Seth do it all the time. Seth, I forgot. I'm like, who else is like that? Seth be like talking to me, then they get real quiet. And I'll be like, okay. Or the tone just gets lower and lower. But my friend, he did the same thing. We were talking and then he just fell asleep. And I was like, it's totally fine. Because I understand, like, you have so much that you have to worry about to do, depending on what time that you woke up that day, or for work. Maybe you work 2 jobs and you only had like a couple hours in between, but you did find some time to do this for yourself. Or I have guys that have been following me for like 3 years and they're like, oh, I've been following you for all this time. I'm like, why are you just now coming? I just decided to like make some time for myself. And or girlfriends or wives, they also will say that. I had a girlfriend call me the other day and she told me that her boyfriend, I said, do you know his love language? Like, do you know like what he likes? And she says, I don't know, but I told her, like, you might want to read the book. You might be interested. It might be something that you guys would like to read together or do the quiz together. And she says, but you know what? I know that he definitely would appreciate me doing something that would be like nurturing for him. He likes to be nurtured. And I said, well, that's really good that you even acknowledge that, because some women might not even see that. They might be so engulfed in their own life as a mother, a wife, or whatever, work, and don't see that their partner too is needing something the same way she may need something. And so I'm always grateful when the girlfriends or wives, baby moms, not the side chicks, because I don't. Thank you, thank you, but not really. Yeah, please, because it is real. Yeah, it's real. But I appreciate when they do call me or they find my business and they like to schedule or bring them, because I also feel it's a safe space, and I hope that they know that it's a trustworthy, a very respectful space. and that their husbands or boyfriends, partners or whatever, are being able to indulge in self-care and learn about that. I've also had some men that don't even know what physical touch feels like outside of sexual touch. And they've obviously had to learn that. They've had to learn that, and it just goes to also show like what people are exposed to, what people are exposed to as a child, and how that plays into adulthood. And without having non-sexual experiences or touch, realizing that there's different types of touch.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think that's very important too. Also, with what I was getting from it when you were saying that the men are so comfortable that they fall asleep. That's like a safe,
for sure,
safe space, for them to be even able to do that. Because, as you mentioned before, like the men, especially the men within our community, the Black men, they go through so much in the world, and it makes me think of that conversation with Nikki Giovanni and James Caldwell.
Oh yes,
And she's like, you lied to the white man. Why not? Why not lie to me? And it's just like they have to put on this front in this face when they walk out the door or whatever, and the whole world is on their shoulders. And it's like when they come home, I get that understanding of when a man comes home, he just wants that peace from his family and his partner, So I think definitely being able to give your partner that as a woman, and being able allowing him to go in a type of space such as yours, and him to feel protected enough and safe enough that he can be able to talk with you, and then also even fall asleep. That's a big thing.
It was like kind of like my tagline initially, but I always wanted to like emphasize that this is a safe space. Like I don't, meaning like safe space, yeah, you can talk about whatever, but more so like a physical safe space. Like we see often, and it should not be this often, but that barbershops, people are going if they know that this person is in the barbershop and he's getting a haircut, and that's where they'll go get him because he's vulnerable, he's in the chair, he's not thinking that someone's going to come through that door and shoot up the whole barbershop. Now you have innocent people also in there who are targeted, or not targeted, but unintentionally targeted. But I also wanted it to just be a safe space for men to know that you can talk about whatever. You can talk about your skin, you can talk about your mental health, you can talk about abuse, you can talk about all these things. And I feel like over the years of having so many male friends, that I've also learned to just understand them a little bit and hear them out, but then also give them this advice from a woman's perspective, non-biased, but just saying, hey, listen, what you're saying sounds like you're trying to stroke your ego. And that's not really, like, you might not want to hear that, but that's really what it is. And it's not me as a woman just saying like, oh no, this is what I hear you say. No, that's what you're doing. You're choosing to stroke your ego by talking to this girl when you really want to be with this one. Work on yourself and get back over here with her. Don't try and just have this one in your face.
That's right. Yes. Talk about the ego, baby.
They need that though.
Yeah, they really do. And so like at our shop, we are appointment only. Don't do walk-ins. I know the name, first and last name, of every client that's coming in, because you have to register, and you schedule your appointment online. So the door is not just like open, just come, walk in, whatever. No, we know who's coming in. It's myself and two other young ladies there. So if
we seen that's expansion.
Yes, thank you. And a part of that, leaving the other studio, because I was in a studio space the first 2 years of business, and that was down 10th in Germantown. And that the energy in the space outside of my studio was not, it didn't work. It didn't work. It was too much high energy. It was a lot of combativeness. It was 10th in Germantown, so it's like Germantown, Lehigh area. And so what was going on outside somewhat reflected inside with the clientele and the other businesses. And I outgrew that. I was like, I don't want this for my clients, because I don't want them to come in here, and I would lock my door. And sometimes people would say, that's so not safe for you to be in this suite by yourself with the door locked with these men. And I would always have my spiel like, God got me.
Right. And it's not your intention.
Yeah.
What we put out is what we give.
Yeah. And I've been very, very grateful and blessed and covered to know that, like, no one has come in my shop or around me with any intention to try cause harm or anything to me. So I've been able to have my doors locked and be by myself in those rooms. But I did not want my clients to have like this armor that they put on when they get out of their car and come into the building. And even though my shop was just the second door in, then they can take off their armor for that hour, but then put it right back on. And I mean, they could have been sleeping. We could have had a really vulnerable conversation, but then that switch has to come back on. Right. And I didn't want that for them. Right. I really wanted them to feel like this is a real safe space. And now I can leave and go outside into the world and maybe not right away feel like I got to be on, on guard. Because of where I'm at now, it's very peaceful. It's such a cute, quaint block. You don't really see many people. It's pretty safe for the most part. We don't really have too many issues up there. And my clients even said it, like, this is a complete different energy than down north. So I appreciate the space being welcoming now for them. Yeah. So
it's amazing. And so you did touch on, because not only do, like, I noticed that when, like, you have I don't know if you have the guys leave, like, after they leave a so like there was an affirmation or grateful, yes. So that's something that I love to, that she has them write on a post-it note an affirmation, and I guess it goes into like a jar or something. So, and I'm big on like gratefuls and affirmations. So I'm like, I love that. And once again, that goes hand in hand with like that self-love, because affirming our men also. I don't think that they also do that either. I remember when we had like it was like a men's circle, and I was like, I gave them roses and put affirmations on them, and their topic was about, you know what I mean, like how many men have received flowers or roses, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of times it's kind of like, but it's like, no, like the conversation was based upon like, why do you feel as though you deserve this rose? And some people are like, I'm like 38 or I'm 40, I've never received a rose, and it's just like, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, so, because when you die, you're gonna get all these flowers that you can't even,
appreciate, smell, or anything.
So I'm just, like I said, I'm just so grateful. I listen, girl. Mine, you want to know? Every 2 weeks, I'm like, he coming. He's getting this. Get him that. Like, I'm seriously, because I really think that is amazing. Like I said, it just like they get to affirm themselves, and you're introducing them into something that you know what I mean. It's just like that they never probably would have thought of, or probably you know what I mean, to do outside of coming into your space. So it's not only am I getting a facial, but yes, like I'm getting poured into, or again your overflow, because I don't no. I mean, pouring into nobody, but they're getting your overflow from the business. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's amazing. Like that's, I just, you know what I want to like. Do you ever do like a follow up? Like I think I want to see you do like a like have all your guests come and kind of like, don't seriously do like a review.
Okay,
like,
so I do have not that. Okay. Not, I will ask sometimes, like when we're finished with the service, I'm like, do you want to do like a testimonial, like a live testimonial? I will do those. I always have like a follow-up email of like how the service was, which is how it goes straight to Google. So they leave a review on Google, which helped, ranking the business all 5 stars. I think I have like over 220-ish, maybe. And it's all 5 stars, and that really just speaks to the actual intention behind the business. The affirmation jar, yes, I thought of these things while during the pandemic. So I was still in Miami, everything was shut down, couldn't go nowhere, couldn't go to these bougie brunches or do anything. And so I treated that time indoors as educational time, and to just block out any distractions. And I said, okay, I want to walk through the experience of what men want to either see, colors, smell. It was kind of like the 5 senses in a sense. And the affirmation jar, I don't think I saw that anywhere else. I just was jotting down ideas. I made like a mood board. And the idea was for one man to speak to the next man without actually engaging or knowing who that person was. Because sometimes you have men, or a lot of times, you have men who've never even heard like, I love you from one of their friends, because it's like, oh, that's no homo or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's so important for men to hear, like, I care about you. I hope you made it home safe, or how's your day? I hope you're having a good day. And sometimes you get it from your mom, maybe if you have that type of relationship with your mom, if your mother is still alive. And if she's not, because that might be the first woman that you have that interaction with. And then that also just sets the tone for all other relationships that you have with females. And I just really felt like affirmations really spoke to me. I had like affirmation cards, and I felt like they spoke to me. It was something that I enjoyed to pull every day. But I also thought about like men, and I'm like, nobody talks to these men in maybe like a really kind way. Some people don't, but for one man to give another man encouraging words and motivation without knowing each other, and so I had a client come, two clients actually, and um, one person wrote or whatever, and then a day or two later, another person came and he pulled the affirmation. But that first person wrote his name, and the person who pulled it had been in jail with him, and he was just like, "Yo, this is so crazy." I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you know who this is?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "He was like, we was in jail together, like we was locked up together." So I had like texted the person, and I was like, "Oh, this is who got your affirmation." And I was like, he was holding it up, and the person was like, "Yo, that's such and such." Like, yeah, we was in jail together. And I thought it was just so powerful that, and it showed me how community, how small Philly is, but just how men that also, um, never had experiences maybe prior to going to jail, or being in prison and thinking, when I get out, I'm gonna do these things. I want to get a facial. I want to get a manicure. I want to travel. I want to go to eat at this restaurant, because these are things that they can only imagine to do. And if given the opportunity, they're gonna take advantage of, let me buy nice things, let me do this, let me have this car, let me have these experiences, because all I could do was just imagine it. Imagine it. And the guy was Wallow that had wrote the note. Wow. And then he had wrote the note, and then the next day someone who had been in jail with him.
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, so it was really special. It was really special that they knew each other. And then
how did you feel giving him an old facial?
He was so cool. Like he was so cool. I was nervous though. I was nervous, but he was so cool, because he and Charlemagne were big inspirations for me to open the business. Yeah. Like I would get up every morning, and you get up, you scroll or whatever, and I would scroll, but it would be like 6, 7 a.m. He already was running down the street, with a video.
right.
And I was like, oh wow, like I love his motivation, and then it just made me want to be home even more. And then I would, while getting ready for work, I would listen to the Breakfast Club, and I would always hear Charlemagne talking about mental health and for Black men. And then Charlemagne has his Black Effect podcast, or his network, and I don't know if I knew about the Black Effect, or maybe I did. And I decided to create a wall in my shop with pictures of Black men, and I call it the Black Effect wall. So it's just like Black men throughout our culture and history. And so like some men like to see if they can name all the figures. We have books now too. So it was nice, like a full circle. Yeah, it was like definitely like a nice full circle that Wallow came though.
I love that. I love that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned earlier that when you were in Miami, that like being near the beach was something that was like good for you and calming. And then hearing you even speak about affirmations, is meditation like a thing for you that you would do?
Yeah. No. Yeah, I do.
Because that's the thing I
went on Saturday, I think, or Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, that's the thing I instantly thought about, like being near the beach. I was like, she definitely had to like take that time to like meditate.
For sure. Like meditation is definitely one thing that I enjoy. I learned pretty young though. My mom was very into like a holistic lifestyle. So meditation, massage, all of that touch was always something that I was pretty familiar with. And Prior to moving to Miami, I suffered from a lot of seizures, and I'm not sure where it stemmed from. My doctors never were able to figure it out, but it started in high school, and I was probably up until like 25. It would happen randomly, but I started to, I want to say, be able to hear and yeah, and catch it, and start to pinpoint when this was happening. And it would typically happen whenever I was, what I didn't know was having an anxiety. Wow. I didn't know it was, my levels were starting to rise. I was getting stressed. The oxygen was not going to my brain, so it was like all these things that were just happening. My heart would be racing, and then I would end up like fainting, and I thought it was just fainting, and it happened in front of a few people, and they were like, you know, you have seizures, like you shake. And I was like, oh no, I didn't know that. And so I went through a bunch of testing. They never were able to figure out what it was, but I knew that it was stemming from anxiety and stress. And so I decided, like, I want to move. I want to change my environment. I want to change what I see every day. And I also felt like I needed to be by the ocean. I needed to be by water. I'm a Pisces. So I was just like, I need, the fish in me needs to be by the water. I need to go be by some water every day. Right. So I was like, my top 3 places, but not in this order, were like Hawaii. What was the other one? I know it was Hawaii. It was Miami. And I can't think, Atlanta. That's what it was. Okay. Atlanta. And someone talked me out of Atlanta. They said, it's too many gay men there. Don't go there. I'm like, okay. So then I didn't go to Atlanta. And then I was like, Hawaii is really expensive. And those flights are going to be a lot to try and come back like often. And so I was like, okay, maybe just Miami. And I would go to Miami for like spring breaks, hang out with my friends. So I was like, I'm just going to go to Miami. That's what it's fitting for. And I lived in South Beach, so I did live like, my first apartment was like 5 blocks from the beach. My second apartment was like literally across the street. So I would often go to the beach. I would go pray and meditate and put my feet in the ocean. I think I learned about grounding before I actually knew what it was, but I just knew what I felt when I put my feet in the grass or sand, in the ocean, and it was really recharging. Yeah, really recharging for me.
Do you still have seizures now, or
no? Okay. I haven't had a seizure in a long time. Well, I lied. I had one on the plane a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, but I think that might have been like, oh, I was overstimulated. I was overstimulated, but yeah, but that was the last time I had one. Yeah. So, yeah.
That makes sense. And it actually was just a reminder for me, and even you saying that, because there was a point for me last year where I would notice that I wasn't like I was breathing, but I wasn't breathing. Yeah. And I would have to, like, it felt like the oxygen wasn't going to my head, and I would have to catch myself, like, girl, breathe. Like, and literally take deep breaths in. And I think, like, for a lot of times with a lot of people, I find that I thought I was the only one, but I find that I'm not the only one. And sometimes people get so consumed in their own stuff that they don't even realize that they're not breathing themselves how they should properly breathe.
I find myself like walking up and down the steps, and my staircase in my house is really steep. And I moved there about a year ago, and I think from where I was living versus where I moved, I had to get adjusted to the fact that they were so steep. And I think in my mind and just learning the new house, I was holding my breath, and I was like walking up the steps and walking down the steps, but I would often feel like when I got to the landing, I was out of breath. And I'm like, am I out of shape? Like, I can't walk up these 12 steps. Like, what's the problem? And I'm like, it can't be that. And I noticed that I was holding my breath. And I'm like, well, that's the reason why. It's because I'm bracing myself as I like walk up or go down the steps, because I'm afraid that I might fall. I might fall down the steps. And I mentioned it to my therapist one time, because I started to notice the pattern of holding my breath during certain things, lifting things, like holding something that's really heavy. I'm like, and then when I put it down, I'm like, oh my God, why am I out of breath like this? but you asked me to lift this couch over there, I would, right? And so it wasn't about like the weight. It was more so I'm holding my breath versus breathing, and I'm restricting everything else, the heart, the mind, everything else to just flow together. So it's definitely that. And that's why, like, when I tell people to like breathe in a bag, if they're like hyperventilating, just breathe in the bag and or count backwards. You start to regulate like your breathing, and it calms you down. Just like with meditation. We used to do this class at the shop where I worked at called Kundalini yoga or Kundalini meditation. It was kind of like a little bit of light yoga movements, but focusing more on the breathing aspect of yoga and meditating. And we learned so much of just like when we are having high anxiety or moments of high anxiety, how we can bring it down, and literally get ourselves through so many situations. But just even how changing our breathing can even slow down some of our aging, like how we look and stuff from breathing, like slow
What's
down.
His name? Yaki talks about breathing. I forget. I think it's like the 4-point breath. You ever heard of it? You never heard of it? So it's like you breathe in and hold for 4, then you release, hold for 4, and then it's just like you just continuously to do it. It's like you then hold, and then it's so he talks about that breathing, and then he talks about how like it presses on what is it called? So we have a major artery that goes like from like our neck to like maybe past our stomach, right? So it's called like it's a vena cava, but you have a superior and inferior. Sorry, y'all.
It's okay. It's okay.
So
the nurse I heard just came out.
I know, right? So he talks about how that helps us with like blood flow and stuff like that. But he talks about that's how we're supposed to be really be breathing. You know what I mean? So but yeah, look into it. His name, Yaki.
Yeah,
Yaki.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
If
I see a person, like,
is always like with him.
If I see somebody,
I'm gonna send you
okay,
stuff. Yeah, I'm gonna send
I
you
might have known him, but
you should. But yeah, he always talks about that. But yes, breathing is very important and it's powerful. Like how they even like I don't know too much about the Kundalini, but like breath work.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Especially
very
like,
similar.
Even like a doula, like when we breathe, our it's very powerful. And it's like our body is so TMI, y'all, but this is no seriously, because this is the thing that I can like. This is how it taught me how powerful breath work is. So like when you're going to the bathroom and you have to defecate, don't push. Like seriously, what I do is I inhale and I always say like I'm releasing, and I'm like, and when I literally like I release it, I was like. It's just showed me how powerful like breath work is. Even though even doing like giving birth when they say like breathe, but it really showed me, what I mean, outside of me, my daughter. But you know what I mean, like I'm telling you, and I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like you know how powerful the mind, the body is, and but yeah, so that was something.
I learned it when I was running. When I recently did 5K. I did the 5K. And I noticed like running, I was like, I have to change this breathing pattern. And because I was running just regular, but trying to get everything in sync with each other was just not working. And so, of course, TikTok, please don't ban TikTok. Please don't ban TikTok. I went on TikTok to look up just like running stuff. And like running outfits and like things that runners would do. And this girl was talking about, she was in the military, and she talked about like this military type of breathing. And it probably has another term, but it was like breathe in and then breathe out 2 times. So I literally I got one day on the treadmill and I said, I'm going to run the entire, like the 3 miles. I'm going to run on this treadmill with that breathing pattern, and I'm going to see how I feel. Versus the day before when I had run, I was like out of breath and like palpitating and like, oh my God, my chest, I can't breathe. I'm going to pass out. And which is bad because I would literally get off the treadmill and then have to sit for a moment and say, this is not okay. And I did the military breathing and I was fine. And I was like, wow. this is amazing. And it really worked for me. I was not out of breath. I was good, but running outside was a different story. It was cold. Ended up having like sinus issues afterwards. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes. But the military, they definitely, because my son's father used to be in the army, and they use that technique for the ruck marches that they do. Those marches are like they have to carry the backpacks on them with all their materials in it, in that bag, and it's like 10 pounds, and you're marching with those boots on as well too. So that, I remember my son's father had taught me that when you said breathing. But another way that I learned how to breathe before prior, which you were speaking about grounding, and something, one of the things that I used to do was like go sit near the Kelly Drive and put my feet in the grass. But one of the ways that I learned about how to control my breathing, especially when it comes to working out, was doing yoga. And one of the yoga instructors that I used to do it with was Dominique Perry, Dom. So she was always big on like breathing in your nose and out your mouth, and like being aware of your breathing and controlling your breathing. And that right there, when I did that consistently, that allowed me to be able to maintain my posture and a pose or whatever, not only during yoga, but also when I was lifting, when I got into the gym and started lifting weights as well too. Because I see so many videos now of like people like going to do like a deadlift or like a squat
and passing out.
As soon
Did you see the video of the guy that was at the gym
and he walked away?
Yeah, and he passed over like that. And it was even a mess.
One where the girl lifted something up over her head and she finally got it up, and then like she went to go walk away and just fell over the, and it was like, I don't ever want to be there.
The comments were exact, and the guy actually worked there. He was just moving it, but I think he also thought like, let me just lift it also. It was heavy, and he sure enough passed out, and he said he was fine. But someone in the comments said that he didn't breathe, like he wasn't breathing, and he held his breath, and he picked up too much, and then that's what it does to you. It breathing definitely. I guess it's like, are we taking it for granted because we actually really need it, and it helps us in more ways than we actually can fathom how easy we can ignore it. But it's like, no, like you said, childbirth and going to the bathroom and anxiety and everything. Just breathe.
It's powerful. A lot of times we shallow breath. You know what I mean? Shallow breathe. You know what I mean? So it's very
yes. I agree. So I do want to ask you though, because I don't know if we have time. Where we at with time?
7:59.
Okay, all right. So this is perfect timing then. Do you read?
Yes.
Okay. What is? Give us a book.
On Broad Street.
we was walking and talking.
So give us what's one of your favorite books?
Okay. So I just finished. I'll probably have to say this book in particular. Well, I've been listening to audiobooks a lot lately, because I'll listen to them with my clients when they're sleeping. So my most recent favorite has to be Let Them by Mel Robbins. It came out like right before the new year, and I listened to her interview with Oprah on the Soul Cycle, I think it is, and it was just so like, it spoke to me. And pretty much it's about let them. Let situations happen, let people disappoint you, let people do things that you feel like, oh my God, that's not how you should do it. Like having less control and having less involvement in things that kind of don't have nothing to do with you. But it also really lets you like find peace, and hold on to your peace, versus saying, let me go help this person because I know if I go over there and help them, they'll get it right, it'll be done correct, versus just saying, no, let them learn, have this experience. If they have to fall and get hurt, then that's what they'll do, and they'll understand that maybe I should try it this way. Or just saying, I can't be hands on in this organization this much. Maybe I need to delegate and let them. Like there were so many experiences of things, how we overthink, how we overprocess things. The book was just amazing. It was so good. I was like, this. It was amazing to finish right in the new year, or finish it right in the new year. But it also was like reaffirming from the past year of the things that I incorporated and that I learned with in therapy, of having less control, of having less hands on to things, and like letting it happen. For instance, and I've just had like all these reaffirming moments since then. It's only like the second week of January. My cousins, some of my family is in California, and the fires were happening, right? And some of my family got evacuation notices to leave. And my one cousin, I text her like separately to just like check on her, like, hey, are you leaving? And she said, pretty much like she gave her reason. She says, like, I'm what is it, neurodivergent, which is, I had to look it up too, but it's like autistic, like on the spectrum. I was like, okay, I didn't know that, but all right. And she was like, pretty much like, neurodivergent people have to process things a little bit different. So she's like, I need to figure out, like, am I going to go get gas, what I'm packing, like all these things, right? Mind you, we're like 10 years apart. So me, it's like, it's not that serious. It's pack what you need to pack, take important documentation, on the way out, because it's going to be a lot of traffic and hectic. It's going to be firefighters and streets blocked off and fires. You get on that road and get gas as you're going, right? But I think it's also like the survival instinct in me of just saying, I don't got time to let these things all accumulate before I'm into action. Like, I'm not waiting for the fire to be at my doorstep. Like, we'll figure that out. And I was thinking to myself, like, what? And I said something at first, like, well, don't try and wait out the fire, because you can't run from fire. It is what it is. And she's like, I won't. Like, something to the nature of like, I got it. And it frustrated me. And I said, let me let her do what she need to do, and she gonna figure it out. God, just protect her. Don't let her burn down in the fire. And that's it. And I said, okay. And I sent that thumbs up. And I know she knew, like, I should probably not have that response. I should maybe like get myself together and get out of here. But she was like, thank you for checking on me though. Like, I appreciate it. I said, you're welcome. And I went about my business. I had to go about my business. And all these little things have been happening or coming up, and I've had to say, let them. Like, literally,
like, that's your test.
It really is. It has been my test. And as I finished the book, and it was so many different situations that and scenarios of letting them, like, just let it. And it because when we want to be involved and hands on, it only takes away from our energy. It takes away from what we have from that cup, that can end up completely depleted if we don't keep it full, keep it flowing. Exactly. So that has to be probably right now my favorite book. Prior to that, I listened again to surprisingly, Demi Moore's book. That book, audio, I like audio. Her life, it was just, I mean, we hear some stories, but her life and things that she's gone through, it gave a deeper perspective of like who she is today. And she just won, I think it was an Oscar. And her speech was how the little girl in her, the younger Demi, was so deserving. Like, this Oscar was like, I deserve this. I've been here, I've been an actress for 30, 40 plus years or whatever, but I'm so deserving of this award. But reading her book or listening to her book allowed me to really get a deeper knowledge of what she had gone through. Like, mother was on alcohol, dad was also on alcohol, just lots of rape, molestation, traveling. It was crazy, crazy, crazy. Feeling as though at one point her mom may have sold her, like in prostitution kind of thing. Yeah, abuse, drugs, all the things that she had been through in her different marriages, and then ultimately, like, where she is now, like her children not speaking to her at one point, being extremely depressed and isolated, to being this nurturer who even now, even though her and what's her husband's name, Bruce Willis, even though they're not together, and he has dementia or is it Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
She still takes care of him. He has a wife, but they're all like they work together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But it makes sense of why she's like that.
Mm-hmm.
And what a person that typically doesn't have that love and that safety, how when they do get some healing and some work done, on themselves mentally, how they can be a different, a reflection is different for them, for that inner child that was like really damaged. So her book was pretty good though. Those two books, yeah.
Okay.
What about y'all?
I'm gonna definitely check out Let Them by Mel
Yes.
Robbins, and I just want to say, sending love and prayers to everybody who experienced loss with the California fires.
Yeah.
But one of the, I always say this, and I'm always stuck on this book, is the Four Agreements for me.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That's because I still slightly struggle with taking things personal.
Yeah.
With and I think that's why I really want to
read
the book
exactly.
Let Them, is because I always have this thing of like I always have this thing of like when people do stuff to me, it's like I wouldn't do that to you, but I have to realize like it's not about me, right? And I had a conversation with a good friend of mine at the beginning of the year where he was just like he basically told me that he was like it's not about you. He was like when people do stuff, it has everything to do with them, right? And he was like, so you have to relinquish that control of thinking or feeling like they should treat you or like you expecting that they should treat you a certain way based off of how you treat them, because he's like you have to understand it took you time to learn certain things, right? So give them that grace to in that time for them to be able to learn how to get to the point as to where you're at or whatever that point looks like for them. And I'm very much understanding of that now. So I've shared this before in our conversations. One of the examples of that is me and my father's relationship. It didn't end like last year towards the end of the year when my brother passed. It didn't end the best, right? But at the beginning of the on New Year's, he had sent me a message, or it was like a group message type thing, and I basically just sent him a message like like sending him nothing but love and like wishing him the best and everything. And I didn't get a response back. And before, I probably would have cried or I probably would have been so mad. Like, why would you do that to me, right? I'm your firstborn. But now it was kind of like, I'm at peace with it. Like, I said what I needed to say. And no matter what, at the end of the day, he's still my father and I still love him. So I just want, like I said, I want nothing but the best for him. And
you definitely will get a lot from that book, as far as letting people and learning that, again, like you said, him not responding, sometimes we want a response or we feel like we need a response, but that's too much control of the other person to give you the satisfaction of him saying something in return. When if you're okay, be okay with it. You said what you had to say, and that's and it's not like I got the last word, but it's just like, this is how I'm feeling. This is the energy that I want to go into the new year with or into our relationship going forward. He can be older, stubborn, have his reasons, but you have to say, I'm okay. I'm okay with this. And a part of reading that also is something with my sister and I. It was the same thing. It was this thing of what my sister has done, and how I don't feel like she's been considerate of our family and her children, and it bothers me. But I had to say, I have to let them, because at the end of the day, it's their children that are going to suffer. I'm not suffering from her not living here in the country. Her children are suffering. And I can only just be the best aunt, be the best friend, be the best support that they have here in the US and local. And that was a big thing that I had to learn even prior to reading the book. So once I read the book, I was like, I'm glad that I set those boundaries at that time, that I had to take a step back, that I had to be okay with their decision. It's not me. It's not my decision to care or to be hurt or to feel hurt for the people that are involved. They will have to deal with that, and I can't control someone else's their feelings. My sister and my dad don't speak neither, and I learned after reading the 5 love languages, I learned about my parents' love language for each other, and I learned how my dad is more of, or while their marriage didn't work, he's more of a acts of service, and my mom was more of like physical touch and quality time. And my dad was like, no, I gotta go work so I can create quality time for you. But my mom didn't see it like this. So, it clashed and it didn't work out.
They were speaking two different languages.
Yeah. And it made me think about how, if maybe this book, or maybe they had read it while married, how maybe if my mom would have said to my dad, hey, look, these are things that I enjoy. I enjoy when we're home together, that we spend quality time with one another, that we cuddle or we spend time. Culturally, my dad is Japanese and Black, so culturally, there's not much like physical touch, lovey-dovey. The Japanese culture, and then the Black side from the South is very much not. They're very cold, and so my mom didn't get that love, nurturing type of thing that she needed from her partner. In return, my siblings and I haven't neither. But I've learned that my dad will show up for me. He may have never said I love you.
Right.
I've never heard it, but again, I had to let them. Okay, that's fine. He never said it, but I've noticed that he has shown up for me in different ways for me to know that he does love me. But definitely read that book. I think you will get a lot out of it. She gives so many different like scenarios of a friend group. She saw some friends going to brunch, or they was at brunch, and she felt like, oh, they didn't invite me, and she went down this rabbit hole of, why don't they invite me to places? Why don't I do this with them? Are they not my friends? Do they not like me? Why? All these different things. And her husband had to break it down to her, like, when's the last time you saw them, or reached out to them, or hit them up?
Right.
And she kind of had to check herself, like, I've been so busy with this and this and that. Our friendships have kind of drawn apart. And her husband said, yeah, so, but they're still friends. They still have maybe a less busy schedule, a less hectic schedule, so they can get together more often than you, and their relationships are still growing. But if you want to be a part of that group still, hit them up, call them, see how they're doing. And then maybe they'll say, oh, Mel's still interested. She's still around. Next time we'll think of her to come. Things like that. So you don't take it so personal. Somebody did the same thing to me last week. They sent me a DM, and a client, I think he thought we were real cool, but we're not that cool. And he sent me a DM, and pretty much he tried to ask for like suggestions, or comparison. I'll say a comparison. He compared my business to another business and said, why don't we have this, or why don't we have that at my space? And I felt triggered. I didn't know the words at the moment. I didn't have the words, right? I didn't have the words. And I text my boyfriend and I said, look what this person said to me. And as I'm talking to him, because my boyfriend just calmed me down, like he just gets me like, okay, get centered now. And it made me think of, how do I feel? How did this make me feel? And I responded, and I told my boyfriend, I said, I felt triggered. I wasn't offended, but I felt triggered because my business is constantly compared to this business. And we don't do the same things. The ideology and the purpose behind my business is, I don't know what theirs is, but it's not the same. And I felt triggered by him asking to do the same things. And my boyfriend said, exactly. And maybe he was compelled to trigger you, or not even think that him sending this would be a trigger to you. And he's like, what you been saying? And I was like, let them. And he's like, yeah, let him. Leave him on red. Don't even acknowledge it.
Ooh.
And I did. And I said, that's all I had to do. But it was like I could have let it draw out for a week, days, hours. But I sat in that moment and I said, yeah, let them. We are not the same. And I don't have to give him a response.
I was gonna say,
I don't have to give him a response. Even as a business owner, and he's a good client or whatever, but I don't have to give him a response to something that I don't feel is necessary to even explain.
Exactly.
So
let them.
Yeah. Yes,
like
it's a really good book. I'll send you guys her. Or before I leave, I'll show you her interview with Oprah. It was amazing.
Yeah, I just finished. What is it? The Year to Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
Oh,
She's the author of,
all the
Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, all the shows. Yeah.
Yes. So that was that. I was listening to that actually yesterday when I was cleaning out. So it's like it was an audiobook, 7 hours, and I am.
You finished it yesterday?
I did.
Oh wow!
I was cleaning all day.
Yeah, I was gonna say you was cleaning all day.
I was cleaning all day. Closed the phone. I've been on my bed just for like a week and some change. But I'm just like
just moving them over.
But yeah, so that book was amazing, and like when she really like saying like a year to like a yes, like basically saying like yes to everything that you would say no to, and you're gonna listen to it. Yeah, like when she starts off, like, and she's such a funny person. That's another thing too. Like the book was funny. Yeah, you know what I mean. It was funny. It was interesting, but it was a lot of different concepts because she even did it within like work, personal life, fitness, finance. It was just like she went through everything. So but yeah, it's a really good audiobook. Oh, that's good. I might have to download that one. I got enough credits.
The Year to Yes.
Yes. Yes. It was amazing. So I was like, all right, now I gotta come up with something else. I didn't expect to like listen to, you know what I mean? Like all day. But I was like, all right. But no, it was a really good book. So I know I'm back on my audio thing too. Like no music, stuff. Audiobooks, podcasts. Yeah, I'm all here for it. I need some suggestions because I listen to a lot of the same type of podcasts. Try Serendipity. Have you tried Serendipity? Oh God, I'm gonna sing it between Inky Johnson and Oka. Oh, okay. Okay. And it's a real like between them two. I love the dynamic because I think he was his coach. I think in high school or something. I'm not even in leading into college. Okay. So, but he's older, and then Inky, of course. But yes, you have to listen to them together. I love their podcast is amazing. Okay. Yeah. That'll be another one.
Yes. So the very last question is, what is something that you wish you knew that you were younger that you know now?
It's the first thing that came to me before you probably even finished was that everything will be okay. Everything will be okay. And every day as an entrepreneur, you have these challenges of entrepreneurship and fears of all the things. And I've definitely found myself challenged in those areas of knowing that everything will be okay. I think I'm just so I want to be in control, but that I have to be productive also. I can't just believe everything is going to be okay and then just let it just happen. I believe I have to put in work too. But with entrepreneurship and even prior just life, I've had to believe and trust that and have faith that everything will be okay. Very traumatic situations from when I was a teenager to me just having to be like, okay, it's it's gonna be okay. And my motto was that everything happens for a reason. So something may have happened as a late teen, and it may have taken 5-10 years, but something else will happen, and I say, well, that's why. That's why that took place, for this to happen, or this took place so that this wouldn't happen. And so that would have to be it. Just knowing that things will be okay. Yeah.
I love that.
Trusting. Yeah, trusting. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing the time with us. We value and even sharing the space with us, because we're very understanding that anybody's time is very valuable. And these conversations, being able to have these type of conversations, are very important to us. So we just thank you again.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
Can't wait to have you back.
Yes, yeah. It's like my second podcast. I'll probably say maybe in the new year.
Okay. Okay. Yes, y'all. And make sure you follow. What is the Instagram?
Yes. 387 Grooming on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and our website is 387grooming.com.
Yes. All right, y'all. So, ladies.
So, yes. Send your man, send your husband.
Yes.
Your man.
Your man.
Your man.
No one else's man.
Your husband, brother, dad, son.
Yes.
That way.
Exactly.
All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in for another conversation on Trap Talk Tuesdays. Have a good night, an amazing night on purpose, and we will catch y'all next week for another conversation on Trap Talk Tuesdays.
Peace out, y'all.